Okay, so now that we've almost finished this chapter, we have a couple things we need to put together. So, the diffusion process, so how people adopt a product or start using it, and the product life cycle concept have all have all have implications for marketing managers. I'm looking here. It's key. So this is key to figuring out if a product will be sustainable or not. So here, this is very, very important. On the bottom of this graph, you see time. On the side, you see sales. At the top, you see where each of the stages of the product life cycle are in a color. So it goes from orange to like a rosy-ish, to a purple, to a blue. So introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. You see the diffusion curve. That's at what point people have it. So right there at the top of the blue curve, the diffusion curve, that is when, say, half of people would have an iPhone or a smartphone. As you can see, there's still some room for growth, but then it goes into maturity from that stage. Innovators, 2.5%. My friend, it's actually Lila's dad. If you guys know Lila Barrett, he was the crazy iPhone guy. Like he wanted iPhones, and I'm guilty of making fun of him. And now I have to eat crow because, yeah, I have an iPhone. I have the new purple one. So I wasn't an innovator with an iPhone. I'm going to say I was probably at the end of the early adopters. But I got one early on, and then I did switch up to an Android, and then went back to the iPhone. So I realized I'm just gonna do iPhones. If you hate on iPhones, hate on iPhones, but it's life. I mean, look at what Apple is doing. It's taking over the world. And then you have your early majority where everybody was going out and buying them. Now we're hitting a point where, like, even my dad has one, not because he wanted one, but because we felt that it was easy for him to use it. They're very user friendly. So I think we're still in like maybe the middle of the late majority where there's still people coming over to iPhones. However, I think there's still growth with iPhones. Um, I mean, there's teenage kids that get them, like young kids even. Like that's the phone that people buy for their kids. So we'll come back to this in just a moment. Here's all your key terms. As you can see, we didn't cover everything in the chapter. Like I said, we're coming right back to this. So I want you, for your assignment, to think of a product and just brainstorm or write down in your assignment where you think a product is, where it's going, where it's at in the product life cycle stage, and where it's at in the diffusion curve. So an iPhone, you can't do it because I'm doing it right now. So I'm going to say that the iPhone, let's see, I'll get my mouse here. The iPhone, I'm going to say, is right about here. Right about here. 75% of people, right there, because it's 25%, 50%, 75%. 100% of people will never have an iPhone because this never reaches. Those of you in calculus or have taken calculus, you'll know that it never gets to zero. But right here, I'm going to say about maybe 65 to 75% of people that are going to have iPhones have them. So I think there's still a little bit of growth, but I think it's also going to soon top off and mature. So think of a product that cannot be an Apple iPhone, none of the generations, none of the different types, and figure out where it's at on this. All right, guys, see you tomorrow.